All right, what is up, everyone? MLB strategy video. We're gonna let people trickle in. It's myself. You see me every single day here. I'm with EMAC this morning doing our Saturday show, 8-game slate. EMAC, what's up?
Oh, it's much nicer to be home. I don't have the crappy hotel Wi-Fi. I've got the high-speed internet here with the boosters and whatever the most Verizon gouges out of me to pay. That's what I got going here, and it feels a little better. It's still a little choppy, but it shouldn't be on everybody else's end. So I'm looking forward to that. We were just talking. We got college football today. If you're into that, we've got a million slates of baseball because of a doubleheader and a variety of game slates. So we're going to focus here on the later game. We've got what do we got tomorrow? Oh, NFL. The world is our oyster this morning, Jake. What do we got here?
Yeah, it's going to be a fun weekend of DFS, and it starts with this MLB slate. So, I don't know. I mean, I'm excited to play football tomorrow. I'm not as excited to play this MLB slate, but maybe we figure some things out as we go. Got some uncertainty in the Nationals game, Nationals-Cubs. Who's pitching because of the postponed game last night, so no Scherzer it looks like, but I guess not right now. I guess we'll see. It's 7 Eastern, but yeah, it should be interesting to go through and talk MLB.
And I'm just looking here. We've got here at the old Osmo.com. You'll see my fan vice stuff behind me. I'll be getting that swat soon enough. But, of course, we are now under the Osmo umbrella. We've got the Slack chat. And someone just posted in Slack, they said it looks like for some contests, FanDuel is moving up their main slate. And, in fact, they have. The FanDuel main slate is now going to lock at 6:15. So what Jake and I were looking at here is we said – you know, the Nationals game, the doubleheader's just been a bit of a mess here. This morning, you know, DraftKings was saying that get your guys out because it was canceled. It's a doubleheader. I'm looking at it. It's on some slates, not on others. It looks like the first game is going to be at 3 o'clock, and that one is going to be the Max Scherzer, and it looks to be, at the moment, Jaime Garcia. So that's on some slates. If they generated your contests after they had announced that, that's fine. The later game, they've mucked around with it, and I think they may actually now be starting that game at 6 potentially. I've seen 9 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Eastern, and now I don't know Eastern. And we don't have pitchers set up. It looks like Cole Hamels for the Cubs, most likely, if we're going through the rotation. And then it's probably going to be Jeffrey Rodriguez, who is going for the Nationals. I thought it could be Eric Fetty. Doesn't matter. Either of those guys, they're cheap. I don't know that I want to take them, but pointing out the weather is about 30 degrees cooler here in the D.C. area today than it was earlier this week. We had some wicked heat indexes. So I guess the heat index approaching 100 for most of the last week. It's going to be 75 today on the heat index with a low of 56. So we haven't seen anything below 70, even for the lows in a while here. So it's deliciously cool by comparison. So that's what we've got here. But I think we can dive on in. I'm just trying to get over here and look and see. So we should be okay. Now you're going to want to watch out and see what DraftKings does, because they have the Cubs game and the Nationals game on their main slate as well. So either they're going to pull it and we're going to be down to 7 games, or they're going to follow FanDuel's lead and start the games at 6:15. So you're going to want to be very careful, not get caught up in watching college football and miss the lock. So that's what we got in front of us. This also makes for a very early unbalanced slate. The latest game, there's only one starting after 9 o'clock, and that's New York and Seattle. So we'll dive in here. Jake, let's start out with that Nationals game. We might as well, since we've been hinting at it all the time here. So it looks like Jeffrey Rodriguez is going to be going against the Cubbies. Of course, we aren't going to know who is in their lineup, but the games are still important for the Cubs. For the Nationals, they are about 10 games out of the wild card spot. Their season is effectively over. If we look here, and it's the good lineup for the Cubs, we'll see Murphy, Baez, Rizzo. Bryant is back. Schwarber is back from his back tightness. I don't know that he'll play in both games. Chris Bryant actually has played third, center, and left field thus far with some shifting in the last couple days. So got to love Joe Madden. But if we look at Jeffrey Rodriguez, he's had just an awful season from a metrics perspective. He's just getting hammered by lefties. He's got a 6.4 xFIP. Now, that's only across 170 hitters. So we're going to give him a little bit of a pass there. And if you need a super-duper cheapie, because, hey, it is baseball, it is tournaments, and we gotta find the ever-elusive value somewhere, you can go with him as your pitcher. Again, that's going to be a little bit dangerous. What is your first read here of this situation, Jake?
Yeah, I'd like to see the run total come out. I'm echoing a little bit on your screen.
Oh, let me fix that. Sorry.
Maybe I can just hear that. I don't know if the rest of the audience can. But, yeah, so I'd like to see the run total, what Vegas thinks of this. Rodriguez, yeah, like you said, such a bad stretch lately. Just gave up 7 earned in his last outing. Getting crushed by lefties. You got Daniel Murphy, Rizzo, Zobrist, Schwarber, and then the righties aren't exactly a walk in the park with Baez and Chris Bryant and Contreras. It's just going to be a really tough matchup for Rodriguez if the Cubs roll out the normal lineup. Doubleheaders is always dicey. You could see a really watered-down lineup, and then that could put you back on Jeffrey Rodriguez. I mean, he has decent stuff. He throws a fastball mid-90s. I think he's got some decent secondary pitches as well, but I know that fastball is good. So it's just going to depend on the Cubs lineup. And then what do you think about Hamels on the other side? Because I kind of dismissed him earlier or on the night shift when I was talking about this slate, but I think that he's going to be in play because there is no Scherzer. And I think Hamels is going to go somewhat overlooked. It's a tough matchup, but one that he just dominated a few weeks ago on Sunday Night Baseball. And he's just looked incredible since coming over to the Cubs. I don't know what happened, but he looks rejuvenated. And I'm willing to take a shot on Hamels for 9-3, where you don't really have to spend up at pitching today. The highest priced guy in this main slate is Thor, and he's only 10-2.
Yep, and I think a change of scenery has been phenomenal. We'll see what the Nationals are going to end up doing. Like we mentioned, they're kind of out of it, so we may see some of their younger guys going tonight. One thing it looks now that DraftKings is pulling the game from their contests. There's still their note on their page that just popped up says they're pulling that game, starting everything still at 7 o'clock. Mention is moving their main slate up to 6:15 to accommodate this game. So your mileage may vary. Go understand the rules of which players you're picking and which games they're counting on, especially if you're playing some of these all-day slates like over on Yahoo and such. So as you mentioned, decent strikeout stuff for Jeffrey Rodriguez. The 14 walks in the last 3 starts is kind of hurting him. So we'll see what happens, but it looks like we may not have to deal too much with this game. So I would say yay to the Cubbies, nay to Rodriguez, unless you're getting a little bit frisky, and then find like a Michael A. Taylor or someone like that might be a base stealing person going against Lester.
Turner.
Yeah, the one thing I always caution on Trey Turner, now his price is reasonable at this point. He's not as good yet against opposite-handed hitters or pitchers. He will get there, but he's much better against righties. Sure. But he's got to get on base. Once he's on base, he's good to go. He leads the league in steals, of course. So we do have that. So anything else from this contest that?
Yeah, just go over again. What was the status of this game for DraftKings? Because I'm playing on DraftKings tonight, or at least I plan to just play on DraftKings. So is this game going to be on there?
It is not. It says the Cubs-Nationals game has been rescheduled and removed from this contest.
Once you click on the actual contest. Because I went to the lineups page, so I'll go to just so I can get to that and see there.
And then FanDuel, if you refresh that page, you've got a 6:10 afternoon only 2-game slate and a 6:15 main slate. So
FanDuel, God, what are you doing?
Yeah,
just take the game off. Just take the game off.
Yeah, well, right? It's FanDuel. I don't like to speak poorly of people, but you know what? They like to smash their thumb with a hammer pretty regularly.
I guess so.
All right, let's get on to the games that everybody is going to have on their slates. We're going to go over to the Chicago White Sox. We have James Shields in the mix and Mr. Shoemaker. I like to refer to him as the Cobbler. He is back in our lives. He's been dealing with a bunch of injuries, but this will be, I believe, his second start. He had some rehab start or side work and such. Went 5 innings in his last game, and we know we like righties going against the White Sox, especially now that they do not have Jose Abreu. You can play both sides of this one, and I think you can consider Moncada. Delmonico is discounted, and he should be in the top half of the order. Avisel Garcia, of course, we know he's going to have knee surgery, clean up his knee after the season, so he's a little bit gimpy, but he's going to be back cleanup. You have Daniel Palka, who has 2 home run upside and has become a little bit of a DFS darling, especially in lefty-righty matchups. And Matt Davidson is also in play. I think I'm going to go on both sides of this one. Now, I know you like to run a portfolio of lineups here, Jake. So what is your initial take on this matchup?
Yeah, so both these guys are going to depend on ownership for me, or projected ownership. We don't have it out for the main slate yet. I'm assuming the guys behind the scenes have a little bit more of a focus on Week 1 NFL, where there's millions of dollars on all sites up for grabs. But when we get ownership, I'm expecting to see some on both of these guys. And I probably will have some shares of both. It's not going to be anything crazy. It's going to be probably 10 to 20% with a lean towards Shoemaker. I am worried about the pitch count with Shoemaker. So he threw 62 in his last start. Efficiently got through 5. People might see the 5 innings and be like, oh, it's stretched out. But look at the pitch count, 62. That's pretty efficient. And if he does that again, you're golden for 6,900. But if he gets in any trouble in any inning, probably limited to 80 is his max, I would say. You're gonna need another. You're gonna need him to make quick work of the White Sox. Not saying he can't do that, because he certainly can, and he looked fine in that last start. But I'm a little bit worried with some of these lefties like Moncada and Palka, like you mentioned.
And that's where we can kind of talk about going with both sides of it, because Shoemaker, if you consider the 2 pitcher sides, we've got to get a second pitcher. He is discounted. I like his matchup a little bit better than Rodriguez, who is going against the Cubs that we talked about. Again, your mileage may vary on whatever site you're playing, but there is some all-day slates as well that will still encompass that game on DraftKings. But, agreed, this is a tenuous situation at best, which leads me to bring up James Shields. Shields has allowed 27 home runs so far this season. He's usually amongst the league leaders, but just 4 home runs allowed in his last 4 games. So we like to see that. He doesn't get blown up nearly as often as we think. He has allowed more than 4 earned runs just twice in his last 10 starts. And going off memory here, because I've written him up recently, I think he's only allowed more than 4 6 times on the season. So it's not like he's going to get destroyed, but this White Sox bullpen not necessarily that great either. So I think we're going to want to look to some of the halos, particularly in the outfield. Oh, that would be Angels in the outfield. See what I did there? See what I did there?
Too good.
What do you think about Shohei Ohtani? So he has been told that he needs to get elbow surgery.
Tommy John, yeah.
If he wants to pitch again. He said, you know what, I'm going to DH for the rest of the season because there's only a couple more weeks and we're going to think about it. Since that time, in fact, the day that came out, he hit 2 home runs and stole a base. He had another home run last night. I kind of hope he's in the lineup today going against Shields here. He would be my priority guy. I think Cole Calhoun, since his stint back in the minors, has come back up with a retooled swing, is actually hitting for power, and he's sitting there at the top of the lineup. He's no longer the super-duper discount that he was for his crappy first part of the season, but he's someone I think we can look at. I'm going to leave the jury out for Mr. Mike Trout, who's been dinged up a little bit, but then you still have to say, good God, he's Mike Trout. He can do magical things. And then Upton is back. He had missed some time with a concussion. But that's 4 potential outfielders here. We got to cut them down. We can only play 3 on most sites, unless you're over there on Fantasy Draft where you have the positional flexibility. If you're going to rank those outfielders, Jake, how are they going to be today for you?
Yeah, it's going to be Ohtani, Trout, 1-2 or 1A, 1B. I mean, it doesn't really matter. I'm going to try to jam both of them in, and it's not going to be that hard. Again, there's no like 13, 12K pitcher that you have to pay up for on DraftKings with no Scherzer. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I like Calhoun, but I think he's always over-owned just because he hits leadoff, and he always has the platoon advantage when he's going up against a righty, and people love targeting against James Shields. So he would be my last guy just for ownership reasons, and he's just clearly the 3rd best out of Trout and Ohtani. Like, those guys are nuts. And Calhoun's fine, but not someone I find myself playing all that often when he's chalky. I like Jose Miguel Fernandez, just has power, and he's 2,900 first base. Like, you rarely see a guy that's under 3K against James Shields, like with actual power. He's batting 7th, but that's fine. Dave's in the chat. Yeah, I mean, so what do you do with Shields? Are you a James Shields truther? Are you like, I don't know. I never know what to do with him. I usually just go opposite of what the ownership's doing. So if the team against him is highly owned, I play some Shields. If Shields is highly owned, I play the other team.
And I think that's the appropriate strategy with him, because anything can happen. As we mentioned kind of at the leadoff of the game, he doesn't get his ass kicked as much as we think, and he's still relatively solid. So I don't mind playing him, particularly now that we're kind of down to 7 games for the main slate. So he's going to be in the mix. A lot of his success is going to depend on who actually ends up being in this Angels lineup. Again, we alluded to Trout being a little bit dinged up, of course. Tony, we'll just call him the Japanese Babe Ruth, and leave it at that. He's, may or may not be in the lineup. Upton may or may not be in the lineup. So, and then we got a bunch of intriguing guys at the bottom. But James Shields can strike these guys out. And you mentioned Jose Miguel Fernandez. He, I think, is going to be a mainstay in my lineups if he makes the Angels lineup. He is going to eat up our first base spot, but he's 10 on Yahoo, 5,800 on Fantasy Draft, 29 on DraftKings, as you mentioned, and 2,300 on FanDuel. His AAA numbers were outstanding. He, of course, played for Salt Lake, I believe, was the team he was there. But he slashed a 333, 400, 500, 17 home runs in 91 games. That's just pretty darn good. That's pretty darn good. So I do like him, and we'll see, because of course we do have the Coors Field game, which is likely to draw some ownership. So perhaps even at this discounted price, we may get a little Jose Miguel Fernandez to ourselves today. And then if you're looking for a discounted catcher, I think it's going to be Arcia in the lineup. Now he's 3,600 on DraftKings. He's 7 on Yahoo. Now I like to play on Yahoo because Yahoo tends to have overlay. And you and I were talking off air. So if you guys have not yet signed up for Yahoo, sign up. Get your account. You can get a little sign up bonus with them if you reach out to Daniel Haight on Twitter. That's Haight. He will hook you up with the deposit bonus, and he's very prompt. He is the guy for DFS Sports. I've talked to him on the phone a few times, but he kind of is the whole DFS action there. But reach out to him on Twitter. He's on the West Coast, so he's probably just about getting up now. He's got a couple young kids, so I'm sure they got him out of bed. But he'll hook you up with a little deposit bonus there. Where am I going with this? Well, I'm going to say last year their contest was $300,000, $10 entry, 10 max for their Week 1 NFL, and it only filled 45%. Tomorrow it's going to be $250,000 contest, but I will be shocked if it gets to be more than half filled, because everybody's going to have stars in their eyes and they're going to be looking at DraftKings and FanDuel and those other sites. So do not miss out on that. You can only play 10 lineups. There is no scripting. Well, you can script, but you're going to have to hand enter them. So there's no CSV upload. But that's what keeps the overlay so massive there. So definitely check that out. That's a little tip here from your old pal, EMAC, on that. But Back to Arcia, batting ninth. I'm fine with that. You're playing him for the home run. $7 on Yahoo. I'll just cross that spot off. He's got a 200 ISO thus far this season. He, of course, came up from AAA Salt Lake about a month and a half, 2 months ago. So he's someone that's in the mix, but I suspect they will play him today with that platoon advantage. Anything else you got for us in this contest, Jake?
I'm right there with you with Arcia. He's another guy. 51% hard hit rate against righties this year. Sign me up for that. Even batting ninth at 3,600 on DK, like you mentioned, just cheap on other sites as well. Just looking at chat, EMAC, you're giving away the goods. Yeah, get your 10 lineups in there. I mean, if $100 is something you're comfortable playing, I mean, play that. It's 25K to first. Is that right? 25K?
Yeah, yes, I've got that open. It is 25,000 to first.
There's going to be overlay. I mean, it's going to be not very difficult to min cash. Yeah, I mean, even if you want to play one lineup, just get in there. Support what Yahoo's doing. I'm certainly going to later today. Where's Josh? He is off. He needs to take a little bit of a refresher today. So Saturdays are supposed to be his days off. He hasn't been taking many off since the FanVice guys have come over. He's been just working his ass off. So he'll be back tomorrow morning for the Live Before Lock show. So you'll see his beautiful face. And we will also have the show with, I believe it's Ben and Laffy tomorrow morning as well. Yeah, so they're going to be taking you up to the Live Before Lock show. So they'll be going live at around 10:45 Eastern.
Indeed. Oh, for those of you coming over from FanVice, Josh is the awesome me. So he's doing all this stuff behind the scenes. Yeah. He's got all the scheduling. He's coaching us up on how to utilize the tech. We've got a little different setup there. We're working on, he does the editing for the things. We've got sports, coming out of our ears behind the paywall. We've got a gigantic article from Spags. So you're going to want to check that out. If you want to play a little primetime slates, yours truly has written up the 4 games. But we've only got 3 left because we got Sunday night and the doubleheader, the rare doubleheader once per year for Monday Night Football. I've written up game capsules for each of those. Almost 5,000 words, Jake. I had to have a little intervention with myself when I wrote up 400 words on Aaron Rodgers. I should have just said, just play him. But no, there's 400 words on Aaron Rodgers. So
yeah.
It is a good time to see what is going on behind the paywall here at osmo.com. Hey, speaking of behind the paywall, it's well, that's a joke that's not going to work. You got the internet porn has ruined everything, but you used to have to pay for your movies on Cinemax, HBO, Showtime, all that stuff. You realize they took out a bunch of their stuff from the late 80s, early 90s. They had some shows called like Real Sex, Red Shoe Diaries, a variety of things. They've pulled them from their catalog. Those are classics. They're corny as hell. But, yeah, you get to see some boobies every now and then. You don't have to worry about that. Internet porn, it just jumps up on your computer whether you want it to or not. Here's what I think is porn, and porn in the bad way. This is a fetish. If you were playing Gio Gonzalez, you were into some sort of pain and suffering. He's making his start here for his new team. That would be the Brewers. He's bad, guys. He is bad. Do you realize that he has not had more than 5 strikeouts a game? Oh, he did have 6 strikeouts in his last game. Of course, he also gave up 6 earned runs there against the Phillies. He has not had more than 5 strikeouts, I think, four times this season.
My God, that's pretty bad.
That's it. This is not the Gio Gonzalez of old. Did you know he's also the Nationals leader in wins, starts, and strikeouts?
Really?
Kind of crazy when you consider they got Scherzer and Strasburg there. So
that is pretty crazy.
Been around for a while. He's not going to be in my lineups today. I don't care that he's going against the Giants. Chris Stratton, on the other hand, to borrow a phrase from Jay Walker, one of the buddies of ours over at FanVice. You might see him dipping around in chat here from time to time. He likes to say a lot of the Giants pitchers are like superheroes, Jake. And their kryptonite, if you will, is the farther they get away from AT&T Park, the worse they pitch.
I like it. It's a good analogy.
That's Chris Stratton in a nutshell. What are you doing with these guys other than saying, let's play some hitters?
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too. Is let's play some hitters. I mean, it's just Gio, like you said. If you like to look at the game logs, and I do. I mean, I like to look at the results. I like to look at the swinging strikes and the first pitch strike rate. First pitch strikes. I mean, he can't even throw strikes right now. Can't get ahead of guys. He's having trouble getting chases out of the zone. Guys aren't guessing on his pitches. His Z-swing percentage is pretty far up from earlier in the season. I mean, he just looks lost right now. So maybe a change of scenery will help Gio. That's the one positive you can spin this, or positive spin you can put on this. Although he's getting 9 righties. Are you seeing 9 righties in the projected lineup as well?
I am seeing, yep.
Yeah.
Because probably Hansen will be up near the top of the order, but he's a switch hitter. And then, of course, the pitcher is also a righty. So, yeah, up and down the lineup. He's, wow. This is terrifying if you're a Gio Gonzalez fan.
And, yeah, I mean, he hasn't been great against righties for a couple of years now. Like, he's dominated lefties, but righties have been a different story. And I know these aren't the greatest righties in the world. You've got Hunter Pence and Yorkies and Kelby Tomlinson and such, but I'm really looking at d'Arnaud, Evan Longoria, and Nick Hundley. Not exactly your household names, but all guys with at least a 121 WRC plus against lefties, 40% hard contact, at least for all of them. d'Arnaud and Hundley will strike out quite a bit, but as we mentioned, Gonzalez has had a tough time missing bats. So I actually think Gonzalez will see decent ownership in tournaments because he's a minus 183 favorite. You see the 3.6 run total. But I think that run total for the Giants has more to do with the Milwaukee bullpen than Gio. So, yeah.
Completely agree with that. One other thing that you're going to want to be careful on as I look at this projected lineup. So, as you mentioned, they're running out a lot of new guys, platoon-type players, et cetera, against Gio here. If you look at their numbers over, and this is stretching back over the last 2 seasons, their projected lineup barely has 1,000 at-bats against lefties, but Evan Longoria has about a 200 ISO. Let's see. Only one other player is above 100, and that's Hunter Pence. Oh, Gorkys Hernandez is at 130.
Okay.
So this is just not a great lineup. So be careful with Gio because you're gonna see him pop in some of the models because of this matchup. Go look at his game logs and see how few strikeouts he's actually getting. And strikeouts are the currency of the realm here in DFS land. And if we are not getting those, it's not going to erase the 2 home runs he's going to give up today. It's not going to erase the 4 earned runs if he's only getting 4 strikeouts. It's just not going to work for us today.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And then Stratton, he's just not someone I like to play ever. I know he's got a little bit of strikeout ability against righties, but he also gives up a ton of hard contact against them. So on the season, 45%. And I like the Brewers stack against Stratton with Braun and Jesus Aguilar. I just love huge power. Lorenzo Cain, power speed combo. Yelich has just been unconscious for about 2 weeks now. Then you throw in Moustakas and Shaw, and that's a really, really tough top 6 for a guy that gives up quality contact.
All right. I see someone in chat is saying Gio's got a shot. The wind is blowing in hard. Please do remember that Miller Park does have a convertible roof on it. So you'll want to be checking and seeing if it's open. I am looking at it, and they have not determined yet what they're going to do, but the roof does open and or close in under 12 minutes. So this is something they can change as they see fit. So that's one of the things you always want to be careful about with some of these parks that have the convertible roofs. You want to understand what the weather can do with them. And then some of the sites don't, they just say, they only worry about rain. So like, this is a protected stadium. So Seattle's very similar. Now Seattle, when it closes, it's like a carport. So it just brings a roof over, and then everything is open air around it. So it's just like a rain shield. Miller Park actually closes. Toronto actually fully closes. Houston actually fully closes. So you want to understand what the different park effects are going to be when it's open. So somewhere like Seattle, you always want to know what the temperature is because that heavily affects what's going to happen with the air density and what it's going to do there. Miller Park, same thing. Is it open or closed? Arizona, yeah, you got a great heat, but they don't keep the roof open very often when it's super duper hot. Miami, great hitting weather all the time because it's humid as hell. They rarely have the roof open. So just know your context here. I know we're at the end of the season, but file that away because next year when we dive back into this, you're going to want to remember these things. Anything else that we can talk about here other than load them up with the lefties for the Brew Crew? The numbers speak for themselves, Jake.
Yeah.
I do not need to sell them. Load them up.
Yeah, love the Brewers. Love the Brewers.
All right. Ben in chat. He's been there. Miller Park's one of the parks I want to go to. He says it's wild. It opens up like a fan. So, yes, that's kind of an interesting one. Seattle, it comes over the top. Arizona, it comes over the top. Miami, it comes in concentrically. Is that the proper? I don't know. But, yeah, this modern marbles. Modern marbles. I actually went to the first baseball game ever in the Kingdom. Now it's a stadium that's no longer there. It looked like imagine a McDonald's Big Mac. You know how it's kind of that cover? It was that, but it was concrete. So we used to always say it's always 71 and partly gray skies. But it never rains. So kind of a fun one. Once upon a time, they did the multi-purpose stadiums, and that was a thing until beautiful Camden Yards was built and started the MLB Ballpark Classic resurgence. All right, I think we're on to our next game. This is a meandering day. We're starting early here. You guys are going to be able to, those of you that are watching it later throughout the day, we're covering the main slate, which is 7 o'clock on DraftKings. They have pulled Game 2 of the doubleheader for the Nationals and Cubbies. That is starting at 6:15. FanDuel has pushed their entire slate forward. Their whole main slate's forward. It's starting now locks at 6:15. May want to dip on over there and see if people, one, forget to update their lineups because they're caught up watching college football, and two, are caught up watching college football, may get a little bit of overlay as people are looking at NFL lineups setting up for tomorrow. Setting us up, we have another couple of meh pitchers. And yes, I'm going to say meh with Jose Berrios. I didn't think I would say this, but he has been disappointing as heck. I did get a little tidbit here. This is from our friends at the Major League Baseball starting lineups page. It says Berrios has been scuffling recently, recording a 6.7 ERA over his last 5 starts, not lasting more than 5 innings in any of those outings, and he's given up a ton of runs. He is still being relatively efficient when he is playing, Jake, but he's not lasting very long. Now, he does get a delicious matchup today going against the Royals, whom, if you go look at his game logs, that was probably the last time he had a decent start was against them. They had a nice one there against Toronto, but we're talking all the way back in July. That is scary. He has double-digit fantasy points once since the beginning of last month. This is a little frightening. But the price, we need to start 2 pitchers. He's got the matchup we like, and he's still got the K upside at 1 per inning. But is he going to go more than 4 innings? Maybe is he going to qualify for the win? I don't know. How are you approaching this with your portfolio of exposures today?
Yeah, I think I'm expecting heavy ownership on Berrios. I'm expecting myself to have heavy exposure to Berrios. So he's one I've been trying to figure out for the last couple weeks, especially. His velocity's jumping up and down on his fastball, especially. The movement looks okay some starts, other starts not great. But his fastball just jumped up in his last start. It was in Texas. It was going from Oakland to Texas, so a little bit different temperatures there. Maybe you drop a mile or two. So I really don't know, but I have to assume the Twins think he's 100% healthy or close to 100%. So I'm just treating him like he's 100% healthy. He's still getting swinging strikes and such. I think run prevention has just been an issue, and he's had issues with lefties basically his whole career, and he probably will continue to with lefty power. But you look at the guys you're scared of on the Royals, and it's Whit Merrifield and Salvador Perez, really, for the most part. Like Goodwin, Mondesi, Herrera, he can strike these guys out. And the stuff looks fine to me, like I mentioned. So $8K for Berrios as a big home favorite. Yeah, I'm going to him.
Yeah, and I think here's the appropriate thing. We're not getting 7 innings, 10 strikeouts from Berrios. But we're going to get, if you think of him like a souped-up reliever or a souped-up kind of, the guys that come in for Tampa Bay and now Oakland is doing that as well with the openers, and then they bring in their next guy. He's a high-end version of this. And as you mentioned, Jake, he may see 7 lefties, but they're not really terrifying. Okay, great. Give up 2 solo shots to O'Hearn. Yay. That's okay. You're going to strike all these other guys out. Brian Goodwin, he's what we like to call a toolsy guy. He's been around with the Nationals forever, and he has moments that you're like, wow, this guy could be good. And then he goes on month-long hitting droughts. He is not someone I'm going to be scared of. Phillips, I'll take that 43% strikeout rate. Love it. Let's clone him and put him in the lineup again. Hey, I guess we kind of did because Mondesi is kind of a similar strikeout rate there. So this is one of those, set your expectations appropriately, and I think we can have Berrios as a strong consideration for an SP2. Just realize we're probably getting 5 innings, maybe 6, maybe 7 strikeouts, and he'll give up a couple runs. But that, as we're going through here, we don't have any expensive pitchers that we really got to go to. So now you want to think about how you're going to construct your team. And on this particular slate with the puzzle pieces we have, I think he's going to be in the mix. You just want to understand that those 30-point DraftKings outings are probably not going to happen until next season. On the other side, we've got the Twinkies. We've got I'm going to go with I'm sorry. I was told that I have to call them the Jakes. So your namesake, Jay Cave, batting for the Jakes. Love that power. He is no longer batting 8th or 9th because they've traded away everybody. They've got him in the heart of the order. Of course, Twins also have Logan Forster in the heart of the order as well. Yeah. So your mileage may vary. But I think if we look at Rosario, Cave, Garver, if he's the guy catching, he's got some solid pop there. He's the Mike Zunino, the Robinson Chirinos. You're playing him for a home run, and then don't sleep on Kepler. Got a nice little core there going against Jorge Lopez, who is not an intimidating pitcher. He does have decent swinging strikeouts. He also has some good outside swing rates from his opponents, but we're looking at less than 200 at bats for him. So don't read too much into that. What do you like here from the Jakes?
Yeah, Rosario Polanco, I love. I'm getting the echo again. Are you hearing that?
Oh, I'll just go back on mute. I think it's cycling through something.
Oh, okay. All right, so Rosario Polanco, really like those 2 guys. Cave, you mentioned, just under 4K. Just outfield the option with some power. Lopez, he had a really good start in his last outing against Baltimore, but Baltimore's a really righty-heavy team. Lopez, obviously a righty. Like you mentioned, he's got decent swinging strikes. Doesn't do a great job of getting ahead, and if he doesn't against lefties, I think Rosario, Polanco, Cave, Kepler can all punish him here. And then if you get Lopez out, you get to deal with that Kansas City bullpen. So yeah, the Twins look like a really nice stack if they can get Lopez out, who I somewhat respect. So I will have a few shares of Lopez, but it's going to be mostly Twins stacks here. So I'm with you there.
Yeah, and we'll want to just sort of plant our flag. I'm seeing Lopez as potentially, 10 or 15% if you're making a bunch of lineups. Hey, he does have a chance that he's going to do well, but he's just facing so many lefties here. I think it's going to be a little tricky for him. We're moving on to our next game here. I said we didn't have pitchers to pay up for. I mean, we've got an expensive guy in Noah Syndergaard. Is he someone we want to pay up for? I'm not sure. This will be the 3rd time he has faced the Phillies this season. We do like his ballpark, and he had a phenomenal outing in San Francisco where he just absolutely shut down the Giants. Complete game, if you will. Was not a shutout because he did allow 1 run, 2 hits, 3 total base runners, 11 strikeouts. He had it going. On. He is averaging over his last 7 starts. He take over 100 pitches per start. So you're getting your pitch per dollar is reasonable for 10,000. I just don't know what I want to do against this somewhat souped up Phillies lineup. Jake, with their acquisitions, they have a never-ending bench. They have the pinch hitters are going to be, something we got to worry about. I mean, now that they've got Ramos and they've got Cabrera, they've got Bauer is off the bench. All sorts of tough guys here. I don't think this is necessarily a gimme lineup. So here we are yet again. I'm tepid on Syndergaard, and he's probably by far the best pitching talent on the slate today.
Yeah, best pitching option, I think, by far on the slate. I expect him to be very heavily owned. Him and Berríos will be a popular combo. The one thing I really like about this matchup, and you mentioned it's tough, they've got guys that they can pinch hit for, but Syndergaard really, really struggles at holding runners, and the Phillies don't have a lot of stolen bases in their lineup. So they're probably going to lead off Cesar Hernandez, I would think, here to get some speed up in the lineup. But if Syndergaard can keep him off the base paths, he should just be able to throw and not have to worry about base runners. He gets himself into trouble with those guys on base. You mentioned that last outing, just super dominant performance. And I could see another one here. The Phillies do strike out quite a bit, a little bit less with this current group they have with Asdrubal in there, and if Bohr's in the lineup as well. But he just looks so much better than everyone else. I've got concerns about everyone else in some way, whether it's Coors Field or just kind of their upside. But I think if he's pitching well here, he's going to easily be the top raw point scoring pitcher.
All right. On the other side, we have Zach Eflin, who I actually would have a ton of interest against if he was facing, say, Baltimore, the Cardinals, any team that's predominantly righty, because he gets his ass kicked. Like, literally, they hand his head to him on a platter and say, thanks for the 380 WOBA and the 250 ISO over the last 375 lefties you've faced. And, oh, by the way, you're not walking him at all because the ball is constantly in play. He's got a weak 40% ground ball rate, a strong, if you're a hitter, 42% fly ball rate, the hard contact rate, 33%. And if it's one thing that the Mets do have, it's their best hitters are lefties. Now, of course, we're talking about their best hitters being Michael Conforto and Brandon Nimmo after they've cleared out anybody with a modicum of talent as they're trying to get anything back in their farm system. So what do the deeper numbers say to you in this one with regards to Eflin? Because, again, as we mentioned on DK, we're now down to 7 games because they've pulled the Nationals game. So that means we have 14 total pitchers tonight. So we do have to examine each one closely.
Yeah, for sure. So, like, the WOBA's up for Eflin against lefties. I'm not saying he's some world beater against them or anything, but he's not maybe as bad as the WOBA would say. 363 against lefties this year. Hard contact under 30%, which is really good against left-handed hitters for a righty. 146 whip, you'd like that to be a little bit lower. As you mentioned, the fly balls, under 21% K rate. So I think last year he was just god-awful against lefties, and everyone targeted against him. If the Mets are going to be popular here, I think it makes sense to maybe even go as far as to get some exposure to Eflin. I'm going to be spreading around my pitcher exposure outside of Berríos and Syndergaard. Mets, as we know, aren't a great team. I'm a little worried about McNeil and Bruce and Conforto. I'm not probably going to get to Nimmo at 5,500. It's just, I mean, that's a ridiculous price on any slate for Brandon Nimmo. And I like the guy, but 5,500 when you can play Yelich for 400 more is kind of crazy. So I don't think Eflin's maybe as bad as like some of the surface numbers would say. So some interest in him, muted interest in the Mets.
All right, let's get on out of this game here. We're heading to our next one. We got 3 to go. This is kind of the dessert, if you will. We've got a Coors Field game. Awesome. Of course, it is Walker Buehler pitching. So that's going to kind of temper our expectations here for the Rockies. And LA also has a phenomenal bullpen, regardless of what Jansen is up to these days. On the other side, we've got Kyle Freeland. You're like, well, gosh, I bet that the Dodgers now can run out almost an entirely right-handed team. But this is also from our – I closed the page. So I'm going to do this one from memory. This is from the MLB page. I did not realize, but Kyle Freeland actually is a Denver native. He is the Rockies are 11-1 in his last 12 starts. And so I've got the page back up. And he has at home. Guess what his ERA is at home this season? And it starts with a 2, Jake. It starts with a 2.
Oh, 250?
2.27 is his ERA at home this year. Pretty good. That said, he's facing one hell of a lineup here. Somewhat muted expectations for me. For the Dodgers because Freeland is phenomenal with the ground ball rate. Over his last 1,400 batters faced, he has a 52% combined ground ball rate, just a 30% fly ball rate. He keeps the hard hits not quite to a minimum, but with that low fly ball rate, it's not a danger of him giving up a bunch of long balls. And he's got a reasonably good first strike rate for a ground ball pitcher as well. I'm guessing they must be fouling some of those off because the swing and strike rate is just not there for him at sub 8%. What are you doing with this surface? You're like, yes, I want to play the Dodgers, but you dig into it a little bit. If Freeman gets blown up, that means 5 innings, 3 earned runs.
Yeah, he just doesn't get blown up. In Coors, outside of Coors, he's just solid against righties, near 50% ground ball rate against them. This Dodgers lineup is really tough, though. So normally I would look to play Freeland at 7K in Coors, but I don't think I can get there. I kind of want the expensive Dodgers, like Turner, Machado, and maybe Kemp as 1 or 2 man stacks, dynamic duos, if I'm running 5-2-1s, but I don't think I'll have many full Dodgers stacks. And I think people will just see the 5.4 total. They'll see that you can fit in Barrios and whoever you want and a full Dodger stack, and just that will be kind of a chalky way to go. But I think I'm going to find full stacks elsewhere because Freeland's not a guy I want to pick on.
Yeah, so let's map this out. Freeland, this will be the 3rd time he's faced him. He's gone 13 innings through the first 2 starts. He has allowed just 13 hits, 5 walks, so 18 total base runners, 13 Ks, 1 home run allowed. So playing this through, he has a bad game. He gives up 3 earned runs through his 5 innings because he's going to go 5 innings against this lineup. Then a pinch hitter comes in, or the pitcher somehow gets one off the Rockies bullpen, and then the number 7 hitter, who we're not going to be playing, probably Puig, gets a solo shot. All of a sudden, you got a full Dodgers stack, 1 through 4, 2 through 5, whatever you're doing, and they've combined for 2 home runs. That's it. That's all you get from them. That's going to kill you today. It's going to kill you.
I agree. And I just think the ownership tax you're going to have to pay on these guys for already being pretty expensive is kind of not worth it. Also, with the Dodgers, and I don't know if you mentioned this just now, but the pinch hit risk for some of these guys is pretty high because they've got so many guys on the bench. Like, if a righty comes in, you could be seeing a Bellinger come in or a Jock Peterson for whoever. Kike is probably coming out. Puig's got a chance to come out. David Freese is for sure getting pitch hit for at some point. So unless these guys do it early on Freeland, which I don't think is very likely, they have quite a big chance to get pulled besides like Machado, Turner, and maybe Dozier. Is Chris Taylor healthy? I don't know why he wouldn't be in the lineup.
So it's the embarrassment of riches. I've got him in a couple season-long teams. Yeah, season-long, I know. But we're down to the final stretches here. I've had to cut him because he's not playing consistently enough. Yeah. And when he does play, shockingly, he is a pinch hit risk, which is wild considering he plays multiple positions, both infield and outfield, and actually hits righties reasonably well. But for some reason, there's this infatuation with playing Kike Hernandez instead of him, which is something I just don't understand. And then, God, now they have David Freese they've picked up. They've got just all sorts of situational players that they can have here. And their manager likes to tinker. And we now have the 35-man rosters because of September call-ups and rosters have expanded. So even if Taylor is in the lineup, I don't see him batting anywhere better than 7th. And I don't see him really getting more than 2 2.5 at bats. So I don't know that I want to go to him even if he is in the lineup.
Yeah, exactly. That's kind of where I'm at. So it's going to be Machado, Kemp, and Turner mostly for me. Kind of laying off these guys that are pinch hit risks.
Concur. Let's see, what game do we have next here? We've got Atlanta and Arizona, sort of an intriguing one. And good God, it's intriguing because Clay Buchholz has had some moments this season, and we have enjoyed those. He has a 2.0 ERA. Let's all pause for a minute and think about that. That's Clay Buchholz, and it's now through 15 starts. It was one thing when it was 3, 4, 5. It's through 15 starts. By the end of today, he's going to have damn near 100 innings under his belt this season, and it's just been great. There has not been a ton of strikeouts coming along with it, but he has been absolutely limiting the base runners. He is allowing barely, and by barely I mean 1.03 base runners per inning, and the long ball, which is normally something that's been a little bit of a bugaboo, an Achilles heel, a weakness, if you will. He's only allowed 9 through his 15 starts. Wow. So that has been keeping him in the mix. Plus, we've got the humidor in full effect. Now, double check that the roof is closed tonight, but I expect it will be because it's still pretty darn warm out there in Arizona. But that's setting up to be a nice potential SP2 on a slate filled with SP2s. But I think his price point is kind of in that sweet spot today, Jake. I mean, he's 8,600. Doesn't it feel like you'd rather save 600 with Berrios, or you'd rather reach up an extra 1,600 and get to Syndergaard? So who's going to be on Buchholz today?
Yeah, agreed. I don't think anybody's going to be on Buchholz. I don't know how much I will have of him, just because I don't think there's much strikeout upside for Buchholz. Even though he's pitched well, like you see the strikeout numbers are barely, like he's getting up to 6 and 7 sometimes, but that's more against teams like San Diego and San Francisco, just softer teams. The Braves are not a team I'm looking for strikeouts. You look at some of these guys' rates, they're under 20, like Camargo and Freeman, Markakis, Albies. So kind of a tough matchup here, but as a pivot, like if Berrios runs into trouble once again, you're going to be sitting pretty with Buchholz if he gets you 18 to 20, which I think he's got an okay chance at. I'm not going to be targeting him too much in terms of hitters. Freeman is one guy I'll always play at 4,700. But the rest of this lineup, I'm not really crazy about for Atlanta. So it's kind of an avoid on both sides for me. Teheran is just someone, like he's an upside GPP play, I think. I have no issue with it against Arizona. You look at, there's a lot of lefties, and Teheran has issues against lefties for sure, but like Descalso and Avila and really the bottom of this lineup, they'll strike out, and Teheran's done an okay job at striking out lefties this year. So I'm looking at Teheran a little bit more than Clay Buchholz here. I don't know. What do you think of Teheran?
So I'm glad you brought that up. And he was a guy, yes, in 14, in 15, in 16, and even somewhat last year, bad against lefties. Actually bad against them. And he was just looking like he was going to be a platoon guy. He has kind of changed his approach a little bit. He's changed his pitch mix a little bit, and he's not getting his ass kicked against lefties. Now, this season, against 300 of them, he's faced 300 lefties, 300 righties, and change. He's got a 330 WOBA and a 170 ISO against lefties. That's pretty decent. Against righties, great, 270 WOBA, a 195 ISO. So he's actually given up a little more power to righties, but his strikeout rate against righties is what is phenomenal. I mean, it's above 25%. That's the best part. Lefties are getting more patient for him. They're not getting the pitches that they want to hit, but their walk rate has just skyrocketed. This season, he is walking just shy of 17% of all lefties he's facing. I will take a base runner as opposed to a home run,
exactly.
though.
Yeah.
So I'm actually okay with Teheran today because the only guys that are really scary against him, I mean, yeah, Escobar can get a little frisky. Goldie's great, but it's going to be strength against strength. Peralta makes me a little bit nervous. John Jay certainly does not. John Jay has an ISO that's only 106 points higher than mine. See what I did there? It's a 106 ISO this season going against righties. So no one's terrifying. AJ Pollock, who is pre-injury was phenomenal, and he really turned it around against righties and was no longer just a lefty killer, but he was phenomenal against righties. Go look at his game log. When was the last time he was in double digits? Yeah. Since he's come back from that injury, his good last year and his good part of the beginning of the season pre-injury is inflating his numbers and making him pop in the model. So he's someone I've actually actively taken out of my stacks for the last 2 weeks because it's just been so frustrating when I've been going to Arizona. And then we're looking at Descalso. Now I have an irrational love for Descalso, so your mileage may vary. He will be in my lineups with one Peralta, but I'm good with Teheran here, and I think he is someone that can get a little bit lost in the mix as much as one can when we're looking at 14 pitchers.
Yeah, I think he's going to go somewhat underowned. Arizona does provide some strikeout upside. Even the guys like Goldschmidt, he'll strike out as well. 27% against righties this year. Pollock at around league average. And yeah, Pollock hasn't been the same guy. So some sneaky upside here for Teheran. I'm willing to get 25-30% of him here and go what I think is going to be pretty high over the field, just because there aren't many pitchers I see getting to like 25 today. Like it's Thor and maybe Brios if he's on and healthy. I don't know that Buchholz can get there. I don't think either of the Coors guys can get there or the White Sox game. So it's going to be tough to try to find upside at pitcher, and I think Teheran has some.
Yeah, because it's not going to be James Shields or the Cobbler in that game.
Exactly. Like where do you go after Syndergaard and Barrios?
Oh, we're hitching our wagon to the Julio Teheran train.
Yeah, I mean, it's not great, but you have to. I mean, unless you're playing one lineup, you got to get exposure elsewhere.
Indeed. September baseball. All right, we're on to our nightcap here, the final game, the late night hammer, if you will. And Masahiro Tanaka was outstanding last night. I do not think we're going to see the same results coming from Lance Lynn. Lynn is a guy we like to take against righty-heavy lineups. The Mariners most certainly are not righty-heavy. Yes, they're better hitters are righties. Their power all comes from the right side. But remember, they were without Robinson the Cheater Cano for 80 games. Their other lefties are Denard Span, not going to scare anybody unless he's robbing you of a home run. D. Gordon, yeah, great that he can play middle infield and middle outfield defense and steal some bases, but he never steals bases anymore. He's not going to scare me that much. So now we're down to the venerable Kyle Seager, also known as Corey's brother. He's on the downward slope of his career. Good God, I've talked myself into some Lance Lynn. I am playing both sides of this one because I do feel that Haniger, we've seen a couple leadoff home runs. We've got Cruz, who's absolutely phenomenal. It's if they can get a hold of one, I definitely think they can hit some home runs off Lynn. The issue with Lynn is he doesn't allow fly balls. I mean, he's got 1 in 4 hits is a fly ball against them. That's pretty damn low. What are you looking at here in our final game?
So I understand you make good points about Lynn. It's a good park, decent amount of righties, but I'm on the Mariners' bats. Lynn will give up some power if he's not creating ground balls. He's someone I really like to target against. The problem is the Yankee bullpen behind him. Even if they get to Lynn, it's going to be tough to continue to pour it on against this Yankee bullpen. So Cruz and Haniger I actually like righty against Lynn, and then you've got the lefties like Seager, Span, and Robinson Cano, the cheater. I like that nickname for him. I mean, I don't know. There's just not that many bats, and the Mariners have a good-looking lineup against Lynn. The one issue I have full stacking them is just that bullpen. I'm worried about, they get 4 on Lynn in 3 innings or something, and then they just get shut down for the next 6 innings. So that's my one worry, but on a slate with not a ton to like for anything, really, I will be going to some Mariners bats.
So I know when we do DFS, we don't look at the standings very often. So oftentimes we're caught off guard. Now I start to look at them particularly over the last month of the season, just because you want to see who's still in the wild card, what are they going to do, etc. How close do you think or how many games back do you think the Yankees are of the Boston Red Sox for the AL East?
Isn't it like 10 or something?
12. It's 8.5.
Yeah. Jeez.
Wow! And they're 3.5 ahead of Oakland for the first wild card spot. There are 2, and they are 6.5 ahead of the Mariners. So, I'd like to look at these, see what's up. I'm sorry, they're 10 ahead of the Mariners. I was reading that wrong. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Bullpen is refreshed after Tanaka last night. This seems like one that they could definitely steal. So yeah, it's going to be tough to see the Mariners getting more than 3 or 4 runs, in my opinion. So that's kind of what has me more on Lind maybe than most.
Yeah.
But of course, if those 4 runs come off of Lind in 5 innings, my hopes will be dashed. On the other side here, we've got the venerable Felix Hernandez. I'm a huge Mariners fan. There's my little Ichiro bobblehead. Guys, look at that. 2001 Rookie of the Year. That's a long time ago. As I mentioned, went to the very first game back in 1977 in the Kingdom. For the Mariners, that was a good time. Vaguely remember it. Went with my dad and a couple of his work buddies. We drove, you'll like this, 3 hours in our family car, which was a 1969 VW Bug.
Oh, nice.
So one of their friends got sick, so it was going to be the 4 of them heading over from work, and one of their buddies got sick, and they're like, who should we bring? And the other 2 guys were like, hey, let's bring your son. And my dad was like, oh, that's great. He's old enough to appreciate it. And they just started laughing. And he goes, and he's the smallest guy you guys could think of quickly that's going to be in the car with us. So that's how I ended up going to the game there. Fun memory from many moons ago. But Felix Hernandez is just not the same now. He's had a few moments here and there. It's been against mostly righty-heavy teams. Lefties is just it's I'm shedding a tear. I'm crying on the inside. 370 WOBA, 270 ISO. It's just horrible. The only saving grace is there's not a ton of lefty power here for the Yankees. Gardner's not really going to scare me, but the lineup looks much different. I mean, I know they don't have Judge, but it looks much better with McCutchen in there. Hicks still, as a switch hitter, does have a decent pop from the left side. And then Gregorius should be in the lineup as well. Those guys make me nervous. Their righties all have power. Felix does not allow much power to righties still, but he's not striking them out at just 17%. And he's not really a lot of balls are going in play. So I think the Yankees are going to be a decent stack because the Mariners' bullpen is not really that great either. And there's a lot of infighting going on in the team there, especially since they've collapsed after their magical little run. They have just been horrible. There was an actual fight amongst players 2 days ago in the in the clubhouse before the game. So
that doesn't sound
there you go.
Great.
I think we have a team that's ready to roll over. Is a long way of saying that. What do you got with our final matchup of the slate?
So Felix, he's someone I almost never play on the road, and not always, but almost always look to play him at home. He just, for whatever reason, I don't know, you probably watch more Mariners games. Does he just get like more jacked up for home games, or does he just love pitching in Seattle? I don't know. What do you think?
He's got the King's Court there, and anytime he gets a strike, they just stand up and they start just saying. It's hard to tell. They go both ways, but for other pitchers, they say K, 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 and they hold up all these Ks. For him, they say King, King, King.
Okay.
King works. So yes, this could be an emotional start. This is, I think, his 23rd start against the Yankees in his career. Who knows if he's going to be in the Mariners plan next season and could be as a bullpen guy. I don't know. So you do have an excellent point about emotion here.
Yeah.
I think we're stretching. It's the Yankees, Bronx Bombers, baby.
I mean,
never-ending lineup.
Yeah, it's a tough lineup for sure, but it is a good park. He's super cheap. He's stretched out. And you look at, like, any number gets better when you go from road to home splits this year. So strikeout rate goes up about 4%, road to home. xFIP down about 0.5 or so. The ground balls are about the same. Hard contact goes way down. Whip goes down. Like, it's reflected in the numbers, so I just didn't know if maybe you knew something. But that does make a little bit more sense. Maybe guys just feel more comfortable at home. It happens. You can't really get into the heads of these MLB players, but I have some interest in using him because I expect we see the Yankees bats really popular as a leverage play. They came up super high in my model, and I don't really want to play chalk tonight on a 8-game slate where I don't think anything's certain. People are just going to see that really good Yankee lineup and want to stack it up, but I like going with some Felix leverage here at home.
I mean, again, we can't discount it, and I like your point of this is, it's not a big slate, it's not small, but there's really not a ton of things that are standing out, and the things that are standing out aren't necessarily great. So yeah. I like the approach that you and Josh, and I know Adam's doing it now, where you're playing more lineups, but you're very cognizant of what the masses are going to be doing. And then that is also helping your secondary decision making on what you're going to do here. If you're just making a couple lineups and hand building all of that, go to town, knock yourself out, do what you're doing. But if you're trying to do I'm playing 180 days of baseball, I'm playing, probably 240 total slates, here's how I'm going to approach it. And over the course of time, I'm going to get my little edges, my little inches, against the field. And I think that's something that is where the game is going now with regards to DFS. So I think that's always something that's a strong suit. And the great thing that we've got here now at Osmo is we've been running out the strategy shows. So just kicking back and listening to Adam and Laffy and Ben and Andrew and Josh and all those guys just talking strategy about football, about single game slates, about how you approach different things has been pretty phenomenal. And that's just going to continue. And I'm guessing you're going to be dropping some NHL knowledge for us here very soon.
Yeah, hopefully. I've been working hard trying to get an NHL model going and projections. Hopefully we'll have articles. We got really good guys coming over from FanVice, as you know. I don't have to tell you that, but for the Osmo subscribers that maybe we didn't have much premium NHL content last year, brand new site. So I was just doing some free articles, but I don't know what's going to be premium, what's going to be not. But it's going to be, it'll be really fun. I mean, I work hard to try to put some good content out there, whether it's free or premium. It may be free to start and premium a few months in or whatever, but it will be good. And like Homer Cleese and Vots, Chris Wassel, like it'll be a good product for sure.
Yeah, and the one great thing about that, not only those guys, is I know we got a bunch of shows in front of the paywall and all of that, but the Slack chat, that is worth the price of the subscription in and of itself. Like-minded gamers going 24/7 on sports, and we have a tremendously knowledgeable group of subscribers, and they're bringing all sorts of great things to the table constantly. Hey, have you thought about this? Here's what I'm thinking. We got tons of eyes out there. This is great for basketball because the last thing you need to know is, hey, my guy turned an ankle on the free throw line, going for a rebound with 9 seconds left and was seen limping off the court. That doesn't make it into Roto World, but someone watching the game may throw that little nugget out. Those are the great things. With hockey in particular, who hates each other? Who's going to get in the fights? And we don't have to worry about penalty minutes as much anymore, but the little nuances. What's the line shift? Who was the – good God, I love and hate at the same time. Now, I'm not a huge hockey fan, but I love and hate that first goalie off the ice is the guy who's starting. How great yet infuriating is that?
Yeah.
At the same time, but you got people looking at this stuff, and especially when you get into the interdivision games where these teams are playing each other 8 times, 10 times a year, they change up their lines, they do different stuff, and you got all sorts of people that are following this closely that can give you the little edge that may not make it in an article, just because there are so many things here. That's the great thing about this is definitely the Slack. And hey, there's no trolls. Boot them out of there. No,
there you go.
We don't feed them. We don't feed them. Hey, Eggs, how you doing? How you doing? Notice you're on the outside, not on the inside. There you go. I know you're getting ready to do the crunch here, so just a quick couple highlights. We didn't really cover the afternoon slate. It's chopped up everywhere. The doubleheaders kind of mucked with things. There's about $250,000 combined on the sites. We've got projections up. I'll be in Slack. Most of my day is going to be spent on the computer building some NFL lineups, especially by hand, especially over there on Yahoo. If you have not joined Yahoo yet, definitely get in there. Last year, they had a $300,000 contest for week one, $10. You can only enter 10 in it. It only filled 47%. This year, it's down to $250,000, but it's $25,000 the first. Top 6,000 are paid right now. There's 6,500 people in it. Yes, that will go up, but it's not like there's going to be a lot of lineups coming in at the last minute because you can only put in 10. Now, you can't script over there, but that's kind of the trade-off is you can script, but then you got to enter the stuff by hand, but you're not going against massive amounts of other players. So we want to look at that. And then lastly, if you're getting ready to sign off, you're going to watch some college football, and then you're going to build your lineups after dinner for baseball. FanDuel has moved their slate up to 6:15 because the Washington Nationals game 2 of the doubleheader is slated to start at 6:15. So FanDuel has moved their entire main slate up to 6:15. Don't get caught watching the paint dry. DraftKings has pulled that game out of the player pool, and you will not get points scored for those. So if you built a lineup, don't use those guys. Don't use those guys. All right, what is the crunch saying for us here? Your first pass at the main slate.
Yeah, so just ignore the projections here. I do weird stuff with my projections. But you see how easy it is to fit in a Yankee stack here. You see Syndergaard, Freeland, this lineup right here. You guys can see that on your screen. You get kind of the good parts. No Stanton in there, but you get a full Yankee stack. You could switch around Trout or Upton. You could fit in Stanton and a full Yankee stack pretty easily. So that's why, just jamming home my interest in Felix. The Yankees came up a ton on my first crunch, but just being cognizant of ownership, and we should have ownership projections out pretty soon. Like I said, the guys behind the scenes are more focused on NFL with the huge week 1 coming up tomorrow. But just keep an eye out for those. I'll pop in chat when we get the ownership updates for the main slate. They are out for the early slate. But you just see how easy it is. Scrolling through some of these lineups, Stanton, Hicks, Gardner, you get Gary Sanchez in there. Maybe not the best fillers, but it just looks so easy to fit that in. And I do think Felix pitches better at home. So I'm probably going to be going the other way. Is there another team you want to look at, EMAC? You want to look at how their stacks up?
I think there might be some interest in Arizona going against Tehran, and you and I have both pledged our love for Tehran today, so let's see what some of those lineups look like.
Yeah, so you're seeing you can still fit in Syndergaard pretty easily. You're getting Goldschmidt, Pollock. Pollock's a guy who always pops for me in projections. I don't know, which lineup is sticking out to you? I kind of like this right here.
I like that one better because you got the nice little one-off with Manny Machado. I'd probably consider tossing Pollock out and
this one right here.
The one above that. Sorry, I'm on a little bit of a delay.
I see. Yeah. Okay. So I'm on the right one right now.
Yeah.
I didn't share my screen with you. Okay.
Yeah. So number 13 there. So number 13, if you can, now he's a little more expensive, and you're going to have to adjust things. Perhaps it goes away from Lopez to somebody else, or drop down from Upton. But you can get Peralta in there. I'd probably go Peralta.
Oh, okay, I see.
I'd probably toss Upton out and probably keep Lopez just for a little bit of differentiation. If I was going that route, I don't mind Mathis at all. He's someone that has a little bit of pop and gets overlooked in that trio of catchers that they have there with Avila and J.R. Murphy and Mathis. So that's a little bit of a mess, but that's kind of the lineup I like because it's not the obvious one. Yeah, we're going with Syndergaard. Yeah, we said we do like Tehran, but hey, it's baseball. Anything can happen. I don't think people are going to have Lopez and the one-off. We only want one-offs from, at this point, maybe the dynamic duos, as you mentioned, from the Dodgers. But with Freeland averaging 2.7 or 2.27 ERA at home this season, and just all ground balls, I don't know that the Dodger stack is going to be one that's going to go nuts more times than not.
So we can look at a Dodger stack right now, and you'll be on a little bit of a delay here, but So just looking at some of these Dodgers stacks, I mean, not too difficult to fit them in, but you see Felix popping up there in the first lineup, and it is doable if you're comfortable fading Thor. I see one with Thor in there actually, so it's not going to be that difficult to get to the Dodgers, and it's Coors Field, and people are like, well, there's not that many great hitting options, so I think it's just going to be natural for people to want to fit in Dodgers and Yankees with all these big names. You've got Coors Field. We didn't really talk about the Rockies that much, but they didn't come up in this crunch really at all, just because my model really likes Buehler and doesn't like to target against him. So,
and the bullpen's so good. So even if Buehler's only going 85 pitches, 5 innings, great. Now we've got an endless array of arms that are going to be in situational.
Exactly.
Matchups that are disadvantageous to our hitters.
So. Yeah. So we can look at the chat. I don't know if we're missing anything, if people are commenting what they want to see, but
let's see. Well, Ed McAdams typed out calling you Josh. Now that's and then he said, "My bad, it's Jake." Well, goodness, we did our first show, Jake and I, last weekend, and I kept calling him Josh so many times that we were down in our hotel. My wife was around in the other room, and she was laughing so hard I could hear her. She did have a little message for me last night. She said, "Are you doing another show with Jake? Can you please call him Jake?" She's a keeper. She's a keeper.
She is a keeper.
Outkick your coverage, youngster, and when you find someone that puts up with all your idiosyncrasies, latch onto them as quick as you can.
Yeah, so I don't have FanDuel up. I don't usually play on FanDuel, so won't get FanDuel crunches today, but I'm sure Syndergaard would be in a ton of my lineups, and you can usually make whatever you want work. This may be a question for you, Emac. Favorite Yahoo stack?
I'm just I'm jumping over here. Let me get up their pricing. I have not built there yet. Last night I was min cashing till the very end because I had Tanaka. I must have had whichever lefty was, I can't remember, even though that was 12 hours ago, whichever lefty was going for Arizona, and a 4-man national stack. And I was min cashing till the very end, even though my 4-man national stack got torpedoed. So Yahoo is always a different build because of how you need to approach their pitchers. And that's the trickiest part. And you can often find you need to get some of those $10 or lower hitters. So if we look here today, let's go with some sub 10.
Is the Yahoo slate all day?
They run their main. They run like literally every time a game starts. They have another slate for it. Now a lot of them are just small leagues and such, but they overlay all the time. So if you're just sitting around building your lineups, you want to check that out. It's definitely something you can do. So if we're looking at the like if you're playing the morning slate, it's like literally everybody on the Cubs is $7. Now, of course, sadly, they're going against Scherzer, so we're not going to do that. But let's look down at the late slate here. I know we pointed out Francisco Arcia. Even if he's batting ninth, he's 7. Play him. We're playing for the home run here. Decent chance he's going to get one against James Shields. I don't know, 1 in 4, 1 in 5, maybe. That's not horrible. It's baseball. Good God, we love that. So he's someone who is discounted that we can look to. That really starts to help out where you're spending your dollars. Jose Miguel Fernandez, you get in the same match, another lefty. He's batting 7th. I don't care. He's $10. That's going to be someone who's helpful. Then you can find some oddities out there. Ozzie Albies for 9. Yeah, I know he's down at the bottom of the order. I know he's slumping a little bit here, a little bit of a sophomore slump. It's Buchholz. Ball's going to go and play, and Albies has stolen base upside. So there's another guy that can really move stuff around. So those would be the cheap guys I'm looking to. You can always consider, if you don't want Arcia, maybe you go with the Seager Zunino, spend $16 and lock in a little 1-2 punch there for the Mariners against Lance Lynn. If I'm looking at pitching, okay, we said a lot of bad things, a lot of not nice things about Felix Hernandez. He's freaking $28 on Yahoo. Minimum there is $25. Their most expensive guys will generally run around 60, high 50s. Noah Syndergaard's 43 there today. He's going to be incredible chalk there because that is a really good price. Maybe you don't play him. and you go with some of these other guys. That's going to allow you to get your hitters up there. So lineup construction is a whole new world over on Yahoo. And what I do like to do is I like to run them through the cruncher or whatever optimizer you are using. And when you do that, it pops certain guys that you may miss because the pricing is so weird. You're going to say, oh, I love this guy, and oh, look how cheap he is. And you may be missing 5 other great plays because you just honed in on that first guy. So there's kind of random sporadic thoughts there about how to finish out your season on Yahoo. But if you guys are getting the premium, we talk about it quite a bit, different pricing, different cheaper stacks, because it's usually some weird off the board stack that or double stack there that you can get that would not be anything like you would get on any of the other sites. And that's the key to unlocking stuff. So Yahoo is my little favorite site because I still have a nice deposit bonus there that I'm working off of from way back in the day. And I took down the Friday contest earlier this year for $5K. So nice. I'm a little partial to Yahoo. So there we are, selling them. And tomorrow, don't forget that contest, their flagship GPP, it's not even going to get half full.
Yeah,
it's going to get about 13,000 people in there, 6,000 cash. Hey, that sounds almost like a double up with some serious upside. 25K 2 first. There we are.
Yeah. Get in that for sure. So I think we're about good, right? I did some Yahoo crunches here. If you guys want me to scroll through them, just this is kind of what you're gonna get. I don't know if Scherzer's on this slate or what, but I just click on.
If you look at your Chicago LA Dodgers one, that'd be a combination you'd never put together, and all of a sudden it's looking like, oh wait, we didn't even talk about those guys. Mm-hmm. Look how they fit nicely. Look how I'm getting Scherzer and Syndergaard in my lineup if you're playing on the all-day slate. Yes, please. I'm going to have to take a little screen capture of that one and put it in the lineup myself there. But yeah, I mean, you got a couple guys with 2 home run upside there, and you've got clearly the top 2 pitchers on the slate. So your mileage may vary, but it is a lot of fun on Yahoo.
Yeah, guys, thanks for tuning in. Yeah, appreciate the Yahoo cards. It's the first time we've done that, so maybe we could start doing that on days that we don't have, or maybe Saturdays with myself and EMAC as we close out this baseball season. If there's anything you guys want to know, feel free to pop it in chat. It's always worth an ask. Check out the daily game plan today. There will be a promo code for a free 1-week trial at osmo.com in the daily game plan that'll be sent out pretty soon after we're done here. So keep an eye out for that. You get a free 1-week trial using this promo code, but you just have to read the email, and then you will get Fantasy Cruncher access with that for that free week as well, which is pretty cool on the Fantasy Cruncher tab on osmo.com. Oh, is it already out? Chris sent it out. All right. Well, look at that. So, EMAC, if you want to just close it out, and we can end the show.
Absolutely. For those that are listening, they did ask in chat, who do you reach out to for the Yahoo deposit bonus? His name is Daniel Haight. He is out there on Twitter. I've talked to him on the phone a few times. Just tell him EMAC sent you. He will get you all squared away there. I'm sure at some point we will work on an affiliate deal here with Osmo. But in the meantime, do not miss out on that overlay there. That's going to be better. I mean, half full contest. Come on. All the great information and strategy in the world does not give you an advantage of playing in a half-filled contest.
Exactly. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next Saturday, myself and EMAC. We have all these great shows coming up tomorrow. There's a couple of them. There's the show with Ben and Laffy that'll be on at about 10:45 Eastern. Then we'll have Josh and Chris. Same thing for MLB. It'll just be on a Sunday morning at 12 Eastern. So the hour leading up until lock, you'll be able to see crunches from Josh. It'll be just like a normal show for MLB, but you'll get your NFL fix, and it'll be a lot of fun. I'll probably be in chat watching the show, putting my lineups in. So I'm excited. Really fun time in DFS. Thanks for tuning in, guys.